So, unfortunately, my husband is in deployment training. My name is Amanda Campisi. All my family lives in Houston, and my friends are at work. So, I'm going to try and make this work the best way I can. I did mine on elementary education because that's what I'm studying. So, my specific area of study, I want to be a kinder teacher. So, it's a little difficult because the first thing I think of with physics or any type of science class is the medical field. So, I had a tough time with this, but once you get into it, you start researching things, you realize how, especially in kinder, they learn the basis of all subjects. So, although they don't get to really get in depth with physics, they learn the little stuff. And most of the time, they're learning it and they don't even realize. So, kids are curious. They're curious about everything. The title of my PowerPoint is Physics for Kids. My first slide, I have, it's called My First Physics Alphabet. And basically, a lot of them they don't learn, but like A, it's for acceleration. And kids, they do races, and they do, they get different sized balls and toss them and see how hard which ball can go the fastest. So they're really learning like force and things like that, and they're having fun while they're doing it. And they might not learn all the terms for them, but they get there. And right here, they're just exposed to the basis of everything. They get to explore a very minimum amount of physics, but they do get to learn distance, length, width, and time. They learn time a lot, and they get pretty good at it. They have a hard time telling time, but they get to time things. They get to see how fast they can do things. They start timing some of their assignments. They also measure a lot. They get to measure sometimes density. They get to build blocks and measure how long they are. They also, like the speed, like I said, with the races. They have races and they can see who the fastest is and compare their height and things like that and get a little more in depth with that. And they also do the floating too. They do little experiments where they get like a foil and then they put the Legos in there and they get to see how they float and things like that. So it's pretty exciting. Some more on the alphabet, like they have M for mass, R for radius, P for pressure, W for width, F for frequency. So like I said, they don't really get too in depth with that, but they still get to learn the basics of some of the stuff. And then here, I have a cool little assignment called Does It Dissolve? And basically, the kids get different substances, and then before the experiment is started, they get a guess which one they think will dissolve and which one they think won't. And then, of course, they have to explain why. So a fun thing you can do with kids at that age is get them to write it down. They get to write their guesses down and then perform the experiment. And it gets a little messy, so it's easier to do closer to the summer, so you can do it outside. And that gives them a little bit of practice too with the scientific method, because they're forming a hypothesis. Even though they don't really learn those big words, you can still teach them to them. They might not understand fully, but they get to do a hypothesis, test it out, and then come to a conclusion. So that's pretty interesting, especially for kids at that age. And then on here I have the rainbow jar. This is where they get to learn a little bit about density. So they have fun making it because they like all the pretty colors, but they get to learn a little bit about why the water stays certain colors, like why they don't all mix together. Because I know when I was a kid, I would ask 100 questions, and they still do now. They'll ask, why is the water blue, or how does it turn the water purple, or things like that. So that gives them a little bit of fun, and they get to learn a little bit as well. And then here I just have some pictures. They like to, they get to learn how to make stuff. So here they can test like acceleration and stuff like that. They'll get little marbles and see which marble can go faster on which ramp that they built. So sometimes the steeper it is, that marble will go faster. And then if it's not at a very high incline, then they get to learn, well, that's why it didn't go fast, because they didn't, I'm sorry about that, they didn't build it high enough. So they get to learn a little bit about acceleration and the way to build stuff to make it go faster, force again. And then they're also building some more stuff. So they get to have a little bit of fun while they're at it. Another thing kids do in this grade level is Legos. They have lots of fun building Legos. And they always want to know why they can't stack them super high and then why they fall all the time. So they get to learn a little bit about that as well. And then here's another ramp that they made. Here's the Legos that I was talking about floating. And then there they get to learn some balance, how they can balance some stuff out, what's heavy, what's not, the mass of an object. And that's about it for my presentation of my PowerPoint. I know with other subjects, especially with like the medical field and stuff, they get a little bit more involved because they're doing things with the body, gravity, stuff like that. And with kinder, I mean, they're just learning the basics. Sometimes they don't even realize they're learning when they are learning. So it's very important for the teachers as well to know what they're teaching, because if a kid comes and asks you, well, how do we get rain? And you know how to explain it to them, then if you don't understand it yourself, you're not going to be able to simplify it for them to understand. So that's another thing as well, is if you don't understand the basics of something, you can't simplify it, especially for that age level, and explain it to them. So it's very important that we know basics of even other subjects as well as physics, math, English, because kids ask a ton of questions. I used to work with kinder kids for 2 years at a private school, and sometimes they would ask me questions that I didn't know how to answer. So now taking some of these classes and understanding like evaporation, condensation, density, mass, why things float, why they sink, stuff like that, then you can explain it to them, you can simplify it for them, and then give them a better understanding in the way that they learned. So when they get older, they can understand it a little better too, because they came in and they learned about the weather, they learned to measure stuff, they learned how long an inch was, and how you can add them together, and practice why things float, why some heavier objects sink, things like that. And they also get to learn about magnets and all sorts of other stuff, shadows, why they have a shadow, why the light comes on, things like that. So it's very important for us to know and then to pass that along to them. So that's it for my presentation. I'll go ahead and show the camera a little close-up of the PowerPoint, so that way you can see it just a little bit better. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. So here's just the beginning. My major, elementary education, kinder teacher. Here's the physics alphabet. You get to see A, acceleration, B, magnetic flux density, D, distance, L, length, M, mass, W, width, T, time. So that's kind of cool. Something they get to see and learn. And they also get to try some fun things, like the balance, force, speed, things that float and sink. And then here's just some of the examples of what they get to guess, if it dissolves or if it doesn't dissolve. And you basically just get jars of water and you have the class predict which ones they think will dissolve. And then you can have the kids, like I said, track the progress on a paper so they can see the difference and they can see how close their guess was to the final outcome. And then, like I said, that gives them a very good time to practice the scientific method. And then here's where they learn about density and how they have fun making the rainbow. It's a cute little experiment. They can even take it home and show their parents. And then here's the pictures. There they have the little ramp that they're building. They'll probably have some car races. You can go the fastest. And then here he's just building some different little things. And then there's the example of the Legos and the foil floating. And then here they're practicing the balance with their rulers and stuff. And then here's another ramp. This one's a little more, I think they're doing it with tennis balls. Probably seeing which one will go fastest. That gives them some good practice too. And that's the end. Thank you.